Hey there viewers, and welcome back to another episode of Brave All Trades. Today we're going to take a look at a Stihl 025. I'm going to go through the steps of what I usually look at for a saw when I'm considering purchasing a used saw. Come along for the diagnosis. It's a Stihl 025, original steel bar. I believe it's an 18-inch bar on it. Seems to have all of its parts intact. One of the things I look at is the coloring on that cylinder in there, and it looks to be an original cylinder. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, just to make sure that somebody hasn't thrown an aftermarket one on there without me knowing. Too many things can go wrong when somebody else is messing around in there. Chain has a lot of meat left on it. Those teeth have a lot of life left in them. Original muffler. Looks like the chain brake is original. Looks like this cover and the caps and the handle all appear to be original. Not a whole lot of scuffs on the bottom, like it was running on a concrete pad for a long period of time. All in all, so far I'm liking it. So as with any saw, one of the most important parts about it is the compression. You want to feel that rolling over motion. You want to see if the chainsaw can hold its own weight, and it's really trying. Comfortable with that? Master control lever seems to function like it's supposed to. Pull off the cover for the air cleaner assembly. Not in terrible condition. Really can't see through it either. I am noticing vent tube is broken off, which vent tube being broken off will leak fuel. It's supposed to have a cap or the end of a regular hose with a bolt in the end of it. It looks more like a plug, an Allen plug. We'll take a look and see what it takes to get a replacement for that. Carburetor is actually stamped steel on the top. I don't think you guys can see it from here. I'm just going through the items that I would look at if I was buying a saw and somebody was letting me go through it. Next thing I usually do, if they'll let me, is take a look at the spark plug. I want to see how it's been running. There is a brownish tinge to it and normal looking carbon and stuff. I'm really trying to get that in focus because that's a perfect example of a good running chainsaw. It's not running too rich, which would be all black. And it's not didn't get excessively hot, which would have a bunch of white on it. So this is a medium brown color. Really liking that. That means that it, whenever it was running really well. I would expect that with the plug out, this would pull over super easy. If it was still hard to pull, that'd be a first indicator that there was something wrong with the piston and the rings. Significantly different now. A lot easier to pull. So I'm going to go ahead and put this plug back in. With this last step, there's very few people that allow you to do this, but if they do, pull off the muffler. Be very gentle. The studs and the nuts actually get a lot of rust on them, and they can sometimes be difficult to pull off. If it looks like it's going to break, you may want to take a step back before especially if you're not sure you're going to buy it or not. Pull off the outside plate. Look at your spark arrestor screen. So a lot of people try to remove this immediately as soon as they see it's got a problem instead of cleaning it. You can see it's got a lot of deposits on it just because it's never been cleaned before. So we're going to clean this before we put it back together. You should be able to wiggle the muffler off at that point. I'm guessing because it has a whole lot of carbon built up on those studs, it's probably not moving very easy. Just trying to knock some of it loose. It should pull right off of those two studs. So the outside plate came off. So there's your exhaust channel. Stihl did a really good job on these 025s. Since that muffler is really in there, it's got a lot of carbon on it. I'm going to leave the rest of that muffler in there. I'm going to show you what I'm after, what I'm actually looking for. Looking in this hole right here, their exhaust port, and I'm looking for scoring on the piston and the rings. I'm going to pull the rope slightly so I can see the ring and the entire exhaust side of the piston. And this one, you guys can't see it, but I can tell it looks pretty dry in there. Just means it hasn't been run in a while. Now, don't confuse dry with being scored. The fuel actually supplies the lubrication, and the fuel actually has an opportunity to evaporate if it hasn't, been running a while. But there's no vertical lines running up and down on that piston, and those vertical lines are what I'm more concerned about. So, and then while I have the piston at the bottom, I'm looking back at the back side of the cylinder and just seeing if I see any vertical lines back there, and I don't. So I'm actually very happy with the condition of the piston and cylinder as far as their look from the outside. And most of the time for me, those checks that I just did indicate that the saw would be worth buying. If obviously I was looking at it, I would have already been happy with the price, otherwise I wouldn't have been looking at it. But once I saw all that, there's no scoring. It's got the original parts. It has decent compression that changes with and without the plug, and then the plug actually looks like it's burning really well. All the rest of the parts look good. I would be happy to purchase it at that point, and to be honest, I probably wouldn't even assemble the rest of the parts. I'd just go ahead and take it as is. This is all assuming this is a non-running saw. Even on a running saw, I will still try to check out what's going on, because a running saw can be running with a huge vacuum leak. It could be running with a carburetor that's just been adjusted to, crazy, and it'll still continue running. But I'm going to clean up all this debris off camera with a wire brush. Just get all those loose particles free. Get anything that looks like it will come loose out, and reassemble this. And I'll be back in a minute. Alright, got it all cleaned up. Just knocked all the scaling and stuff off of there. Anything that I could get with a wire brush. And went ahead and cleaned up the air filter while I had some of the compressed air out, and I was cleaning the rest of that out. Cleaned up the exhaust chamber. This is one of the things a lot of people will omit when they're trying to do an exhaust mod on these things to try to get more power out of them. Truthfully, I like leaving these particular saws, the 025 and 021, I like leaving them as factory as possible. They run great, they are workhorses. If you don't mod them, they last a really long time, and I'm very happy with the way this one's looking so far. We are going to put the cover on this screen. See if I can get it with a wire brush, and if I can, great. If I cannot, I'll use a torch. This is just a wire brush from Harbor Freight, one of the $1 for a 3-pack, whatever. Now, if you can get it cleaned with a wire brush, that's the easiest method. If it's really bad, you may have to use a propane torch, like I've had to do just recently, as a matter of fact, in one of my videos. White background if you guys can see any better, but I don't know if you can tell, it really did clean it up quite a bit. I'm a fan of those spark arresters. They do catch quite a bit of stuff. If you've never seen a saw operating, or actually just any piece of outdoor equipment operating in the dark, you would be surprised how many sparks come off of those. And the leaner they run, the more sparks you get. These exhaust studs and these nuts have been through a whole lot of heat cycles and rust and elements and everything else. You want to be careful with either loosening them, tightening them, everything else. They do break. They usually have a special head on the back side to attach them to the cylinder. So when you do break one, it'll usually put you out of commission for the day. Alright friends, let's give this a try. I'm going to put the choke full on. Give it a few good pulls and see if it pops them for us. Friends, that was a shock. I didn't expect that to run like that. She fired right up and actually started to idle. So I brought it outside, see what I can come up with, see how it runs. Not going to get too aggressive with it. I want to make sure everything's working. I didn't even put any oil in it. I didn't change the gas. So I just want to see if she fires back up on a drop start. Okay guys, I went looking through my bucket of parts, and what I found was some large diameter fuel line, and I think it was a breather off of an Echo string trimmer. The way Stihl does it is they usually have a piece of hose that just comes up out of this breather, about that long, something like that, and they have what looks like a Allen set screw down inside that plug. And you would swear somebody tried to plug off an emissions control device. What that is, it was the appropriate size to allow air past the threads to get into the tank that's pulling a vacuum, because gasoline is leaving, air has to replace it. So all you're trying to do is not let gasoline out, but let air in. So that's realistically what this is supposed to do. I'm going to give it a try. I know it's kind of taboo because it's Echo and Stihl and whatever, but honestly the concept is the same. So let's see if we can make this fit. So all I want to do is make it tall enough to fit up in there so that it doesn't hit anything. It does look a little bit wet right around this fuel line, and I don't think it came from this vent line. We are going to go ahead and change that fuel line out just in case. So I'm going to drain out the tank and go find one of these fuel lines and get it swapped over. Y'all have seen that a few times. I'm going to probably fast forward through some of it. Okay, so friends, what I did, I pulled out the other fuel line, and as I was pulling it out, it ripped really easy. So I'm thinking that there was probably a pinhole already, which would explain the leaking fuel I saw. Pulled it completely through, grabbed the new line, and pulled it through, and you kind of have to wiggle it into place. So it can be done without removing all of this. It's just not the ideal way. So a lot of videos are probably going to show you removing this entire thing. I'm here to tell you, if you can see inside this groove right here, and you've got a couple of longer pliers and a long flathead screwdriver, things like that, and you're careful, you can get that grommet all the way up in there, and I really doubt you're going to see this, but in the very top of here, that grommet comes halfway through, and you want to look in there and verify that it's completely symmetrical. Get in there. I changed out the fuel filter. This is my battery died, so anyway, didn't really need to change the fuel filter. The last one ran really good. Top this thing off with fuel again. Need to hook up the fuel line. Guess I forgot that part. Hemostats work great for this. Went through my parts bin and I found something similar. I'd say that's a pretty close fit. Alright, so new air filter assembly. Go ahead and get this topped off with fuel. You guys didn't see me, but I topped off the oil already as well. The oil was completely empty.